What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel and to another Outriders video. A while back I started a series of videos specifically targeting characters that had just reached level 30, only really have access to tier 1 and tier 2 mods, no tier 3s, no great legendaries, no great legendary weapons, and essentially getting those characters fit into a build that can start pushing into late expeditions and can finish CT 15 expeditions comfortably and allow you to start getting better loot drops from that. Now today is the Trickster's turn. Previously we've done the Techno, the Pyro and the Devastator, so today we complete the loop. But if you do find this video useful in any way or enjoy it, please do consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel, maybe sharing the video with a buddy. It really does help the channel grow and it just means a whole lot to me. But without any further ado, let's go. So due to the fact that the Trickster has access to a bullet ability in Twisted rounds, you might be tempted into going full firepower for your build and to push into CT15s. But this is unfortunately a mistake at this point when you start out, because of the fact that your reloading mechanics in Instant Reload and Ammo Bargain are tier 3 mods, and if you don't have access to them, it severely diminishes what you're able to do with Twisted rounds on the Trickster. Is it possible to still make it work? Sure, but you're gonna have a hell of a hard time, and my proposal to you is rather to look towards AP and to build more into a full debuff AP kind of Trickster, because that's just overall gonna mean that you can deal a lot more damage. It's gonna play a lot safer because you're not gonna be pushing into close range encounters, and you're just gonna have a lot easier time not pulling your hair out because you don't have reloads for your Twisted rounds and you have to wait for it to come off cooldown. Now it just so happens that Temporal Blade and Time Rift's best mods are actually tier 1 mods, and so with the kit that you should already have available to you that you've been unlocking while you've been playing up to level 30, you should have all of the mods necessary to actually build a fairly lethal AP kit and be able to deal as much damage as possible at a range, and basically making yourself fairly unkillable as well due to the interaction that we see with Time Rift and some of it mods and you. Now all in all, this plays very similar to the AP Trickster and debuff Trickster videos that I've made for the channel in the past, and it's such a powerful package altogether that this is probably the safest way, the easiest way that you can do CT15s with very low tier gear. And also the other thing that's really cool about it is it's not really weapon dependent. So if you don't have any great legendary drops yet, you don't have access to any great legendary mods, you don't have a funeral pyre or anything like that, then this is still extremely viable for you. More than that, I feel like the basic building blocks of this build allow you to practice to essentially play an AP Trickster later on or a debuff Trickster later on, and it also starts teaching you the nuance of hunt the prey, when you should use it, how you should move around the battlefield. And so all in all, it's just a great starting place for you on your Trickster journey, because the Trickster does play slightly different, or in some cases one could even argue and say a lot different to the other 3 classes, due to the fact that you can dart around the map like this, but also because the class is kind of like this all or nothing, all in kind of class. So a lot of the times, especially if you are eventually interested in playing firepower Trickster, you will have to deal with the fact that a lot of the times you're jumping right into danger, and you are very much dependent on staying alive by how much damage you push out, because that gives you shield back, that gives you your life regeneration back, and essentially keeps you alive. Lastly, I'll just say that I know that firepower Trickster is extremely popular, and it's an extremely deadly class combination if you know how to play it, and really deals fantastic damage. But I do like the additional opportunity that you have for support when you play something like this, when you delve a little bit more onto the AP side of Trickster or the debuff side of Trickster using something like Time Rift. Because again, while we are now in an era of this game where co-op play is a lot more popular, it definitely is good to add a little bit of additional utility to your teammates. Now when we get to the actual build itself, let's go ahead and check out skills first. Temporal Blade, Time Rift and Hunt the Prey are our 3 skills of choice here, and all 3 of them feature fairly low cooldowns, each one basically being about 8 seconds. And essentially your main damage push, the main way that you're going to control the battlefield, is going to be Time Rift. Hunt the Prey can both be used to set you up into a position where you can attack from, but also can be used as an oh shit, let me get out of trouble kind of button, because let's say for instance you're in amidst a bunch of enemies, but there's something standing far off on a cliff or to the side, you can use Hunt the Prey to essentially jump out from there. Now the most important thing that you have to remember here is that your Time Rift is essentially also a way to keep yourself alive. So a lot of the times, if you want to be moving from one side of the battlefield to the other, your best option is to throw a time rift, hit 3 or 4 enemies, because the dot that ticks on time rift is going to keep on topping you up on life and allow you to move while taking damage, getting shot, getting hit, anything like that. So a lot of the times, if you want to move, if you want to cross an area, be sure to have time rift up, because that's going to make you, for the time that the enemies are suspended and that they're taking that dot damage, you're going to be, I don't like using the word unkillable because shit happens, but you're going to be taking a, getting in a lot of life and being able to deal with a lot of damage because of that. And when it gets to the actual weapon, in this case here, I mean, I'm literally rocking 2 green weapons on here because we're not going to be switching weapons with this at all. This is just to demonstrate, and we're using a submachine gun here with an extremely low firepower value of 72k, but again, your damage is coming from AP. You can see my AP is stacked to 171k here, and we are basically just using the submachine gun or your weapon to deal a little bit of additional damage. And in this way, Storm Whip is good because that gives you a little bit of additional damage to specifically the target that you're shooting at. And Death Chains, again, surprise surprise, is really good here because it's kind of like a fire and forget button. So a lot of the times when you time rift something up and it's a biggish enemy or an elite or a captain, then the time rift won't kill it. It will almost kill it, or at least take it to half-life. So then you can hit it once. The Death Chains is just going to chunk another 200k of HP from that, and this all happens while the enemy is hanging in the air. So you can hit a bunch of them 2 seconds apart and then essentially reposition on the map and get ready for your next time rift. Now when we get to the gear itself, what you should be looking for, of course, is anomaly. That's a given, but you should be trying to stack cooldown reduction as well. And then last but not least, skills life leech is really good in this build as well, because you are going to predominantly be using your skills to deal damage. And so if you can increase the life gain that you get back from that, that's all the better for you. Things like status in this build are, I would say, of lesser value, and so definitely you should be focusing on skills life leech, healing received, anything like that, to just increase the chances of getting more life in. Now we're using a little bit of pain on here. This is the dot effect, and this damage, this 614k that you see there, is directly dependent on how much your anomaly is. So anything that you do to change your anomaly value and push it up, ramp it up, which we're going to do with the skill tree, will actually, or rather the class tree, will actually increase this value of the dot as it runs over time. Likewise, if you have less anomaly, it's not going to be quite as sexy as this. It's not going to be 600, it's going to be like 400, 500, something like that, depending on where you lie in the anomaly scheme. Now Slash on here is a mod for us for our temporal blade, which allows us to do 2 temporal blade slashes before it goes onto cooldown. Now how how temporal blade fits into this is, as I've mentioned, a lot of the times you're going to be using time rift to push out damage. Now the enemies that survive your time rift, they're going to be suspended and then come down, and that's the time when you essentially get close to them, either by hunting the prey behind them or just running up to them and slashing twice. And usually this combo is enough to kill most captains, most elites, most enemies in the game. Bosses not, but most of those other enemies will die from this, basically just hitting them with the 1-2, or maybe it's the 1-2-3, right? Because it's time rift and then slash. But in any case, you get my point. Then when we get over to the chest piece, we have double time on here. Now double time means that the enemies hang in the air for twice as long. Again, the thing is, you are using time rift as the main way for you to deal damage, and so the longer you get enemies up off the battlefield, the less time that they have to shoot you, hit you, and mess with you, and the more time you have to get your next time rift ready so that you can use it on them. So double time definitely helps in that aspect. We use time crack on here as well, which says that enemies that get hit by a time rift, they have their armor and their resistance decreased by 35%. This is good for when you're running in a group, because obviously your teammates can benefit from this as well, but it's also good for you because it means that you are able to pierce the resistance of those enemies with your follow-up temporal blades, for instance. So when we then get to the pants, we have long range on here for time rift. This triples the range of your time rift. This is kind of like super important, and that's because the default range of time rift is not that great, but by applying long range to this, you're essentially able to reach across the entire battlefield, at least as far as you can see to the end of the arena. And so this definitely does help you to get as many enemies as possible with one cast of a time rift, and that's going to mean more life for you coming in, but also more stuff dying to that dot. A Geiger wave on here gives everything that's hit by time rift vulnerable status as well, which again means that they're taking more damage not only from you, but they're also taking more damage from your teammates, which is fantastic. Then when we get over to the gloves, we have Cut Loose and Strong Slice here, which are both 2 mods for Temporal Blade. Cut Loose reduces Temporal Blade's cooldown by 20%. If you don't put this on, your Temporal Blade is going to be between 10 and 11 seconds cooldown if you don't apply any other cooldown effects anywhere else. And so this definitely does give you a good almost 2.5 seconds cooldown. Strong Slice just increases the base damage of your Temporal Blades by pretty much 100k, so you have 2 of these, so this is a 200k damage bonus for you basically. And last but not least, on the boost here, boots, we have Double Stop. This increases the duration of the inflicted paralysis by 100%. Now when you hit enemies with Temporal Blade, it paralyzes them, and in that time they cannot fight back against you. They essentially, if you've never seen the effect, you can basically see the skeleton of the enemy. And so in this time, that enemy is locked down. It's not able to do any damage. It's not able to run away or do anything. And so this increases that duration by 100k. This is good for 2 reasons. First of all, it makes your follow-up slash obviously great, because you can't miss that shit. Plus, a lot of the times with your second hit, the paralysis that comes from that gives you enough time for your next time rift to be ready and just to hit them again with a time rift, because of the cooldowns being as short as they are. So this also helps in a co-op scenario, because again, while stuff is paralyzed, it's standing still, and your teammates can also capitalize on that. I use Damage Absorber on here as the one defensive mod in this build. You are getting a lot of life gain in from all of the skills life leech, but any additional sort of like way that you can help yourself in dealing with incoming damage is always good, especially in maps where enemies are not funneling themselves towards you. In other words, monster maps are usually very easy because the enemies naturally run towards you in a line, so you just hit them with time rift and Bob's your uncle. But when you are fighting human enemies, they'll often post up and try and snipe you and shoot from afar, so you might have to take a couple of hits as you're closing the distance to them. Maybe your hunter preys on cooldown, maybe you're just badly positioned, but sometimes you have to take a couple of hits to get closer to get to them, and this definitely does give you a little bit of survivability in that arena. Now, one thing that you'll notice is the gear that I'm wearing is not optimized at all. I haven't spent any shards on it, so it has the lowest anomaly values, the lowest cooldown reduction values. So this as a blueprint is even like the worst picture that we can get right now. Once we pump some shards into this, what happens is your cooldowns drop down further. They get closer to, let's say, about 7 seconds, a little bit more than 7 seconds, even closer to 6 seconds, which is phenomenal. But also your anomaly power increases from about 170 to a little bit higher, closer to 190, around there. And that obviously helps you a lot more as well with just having heavier hits and dealing more damage with your AP. So starting out the kit like this, once you start putting some shards in, it's even going to perform better, is what I'm trying to say. When we get over to the class tree, of course, because we're playing AP, we're going to go bottom tree. And essentially what you're doing is you're just going through here. You're picking up anomaly nodes. You're picking up resistance piercing. Now, resistance piercing is especially quite a good thing to sort of focus on. And definitely bottom tree Trickster does that. And that's because enemies, especially enemies that can survive your damage, build up resistances to your skills. So sometimes you're going to hit stuff with a time rift the second or the third time if you have to, and it's not actually going to do the time rift effect. It's not going to lift them up. So resistance piercing is going to help you mitigate a lot of those situations where you can still force it through and the resistance is actually pierced. So that's definitely something good to stack here. Now, we have anomaly scything is the first sort of important one for us to pick up. This gives you an ability to boost your anomaly power by 30% for 5 seconds just by using your melee skill. So this is just a soft way for you to quickly ramp up your damage a little bit, and that a 30% increase to anomaly power is no slouch. That's quite a bit. And what you'll notice with the Trickster's bottom tree is it has a lot of these ramp up mechanics which are hinging on your skills. That's why it's also important to be aware of your rotation and how you enter into combat, because that's going to help you understand, okay, so when I do this, it's going to make this thing deal more damage, and that's going to make that thing deal more damage, and then I can do this. So as an example here, and really this comes from playing the class, so don't just take my word for it, play it more and understand the nuance of it. But basically you can do things like you can go time rift, and then as I've mentioned, you can go temporal blade, and then by that time and next time rift is going to be ready, you can go time rift, hunter prey, temporal time rift. You can time rift, temporal time, there's many different combinations. I think I just said the same thing twice. But the point is, when we go deeper into the tree, you'll see we have counter shield here, which says that when you activate a deception skill, then your anomaly power is increased by 50%. So that means when you time rift, your anomaly power is increased by 50% for 10 seconds. Then we have combat shields timeline that says when you activate a movement skill, so that's when you hunt the prey, you get 50%. So a lot of the times, if you open up with a hunt the prey and then a time rift, you're getting 100% additional anomaly for 10 seconds. And that means your 2 temporal blades that you can hit with are going to hit like Mac trucks, 2 Mac trucks. And then we also do pick up anomaly acceleration that says when your damage skill ends, it increases your anomaly power by 50%. So that's again, when your temporal blades end, it gives you another 50%. So in a perfect world, you can execute this fast enough that you essentially are stacking up to 150% additional anomaly. Now, Leap of Clincher here also gives you resistance piercing when you hunt the prey. So again, a lot of the times a good opener, if you're not putting yourself in too bad of a position, is hunt the prey. So because you automatically just get the benefit of all of that resistance piercing that gets stacked on as well. Then we do pick up Sign of the Void. This says that when any damage skill ends, again, we have a ramping effect here on armor piercing and resistance piercing. So this means that, you know, when you hunt the prey, you're going to get the resistance piercing from that. And then in the time that you have that buff, when you then temporal blade, for instance, twice, then or once even, then you're going to get even more resistance piercing stacked onto that. And then last but not least, we pick up Shielded Readiness here, which gives you additional. Now you're gonna, because of the skills life leech that you are tapping into with your gear, you're gonna be getting a lot of life coming in. But Shielded Readiness also actually transforms the healing that you get from enemies dying in close range to shield power. So this is gonna give you that, you know, sort of like double life bar situation where you are going to be relatively topped up on life, but your shield's also always going to be, you know, full if stuff dies near you in close range, which they tend to do when you hit them with really big temporal blades. And last but not least, Altered Executioner is fantastic because when you do have these situations where you hunt the prey into like 8 enemies or 4 enemies standing around, it's just automatically, because of this, going to increase your anomaly power by a percentage per enemy. So if you jump into, you know, let's say 5 additional enemies, that's a 30% anomaly increase for you right there. So that's it for the build, guys. This series is now complete. I've done one for each one of the different classes and tried to create a blueprint or a foundation for each one of these classes that can help you stretch your legs into CT15 and get you completing that content, get you better drop chances on legendaries, get you more options on drop chances on legendary, but also get you the most possible drop pod resources, which you're going to need to be able to upgrade your gear. Let me know in the comments down below how you would build your starter Trickster, if you would do it different to this, if this has been helpful to you in any way, and if you're ready to start your Trickster journey. But thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. It's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, a great afternoon, and a super awesome evening wherever you are in the world. And until next video, fucking cheers.
They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now.